What is women's history? Is it women marching for the vote in 1920? Or is it marching for the Equal Rights Amendment in 1970? Is it the story of women working outside the home? Or working within the family? Is it changes in technology? Or changes in attitudes?
Are there any men telephone operators?
No men.
Why?
Well, we've just found that most men are not comfortable and adaptable to this type of work.
Women's history is widely unknown. Even to themselves, they hardly look at their lives as being important or having effect on others, and merely documenting, putting where it can be retrieved and preserved.
The Clyde Legacy Archive will collect the story of the lives of both private and public women to document complexity and change in the 20th century. The kind of stories families usually share only around the home table, like the story from the early 1970s when Aileen Clyde and her daughter-in-law became the first women to work on the road crew of the family construction business.
So we became certified flag persons. We were the only two women in the room the night that we had the training, and I won't even go into the gender bias that was demonstrated there very rudely.
Cracking the gender barrier in the construction industry is one story for the Clyde Archive. Another would be that of Chieko Okazaki, a lifelong educator and a women's leader in the LDS Church in the 1990s. Each of her speeches is carefully cataloged in the basement of her home, where her son and grandson can read through them now that she has passed away.
The history of the Japanese Americans from her perspective and as it related to her life.
The papers in her basement are there for her family to read, but they want others to see them too.
We all like to leave something behind when we go. Excuse me. I think this archive is important because that which she left, she would want other people to use whatever's there.
Chieko Okazaki carefully cataloged her talks and papers, but most people just pile everything in boxes. Photos, papers, mementos, notes, scraps.
There are so many boxes, I can't believe it. They're all mixed up.
Susan's mother, Afton Bradshaw, was a member of the Utah legislature between 1984 and 2002, a time in her life when most people retire. So there's a lot in her boxes.
It's so unorganized, and everyone thought my mother was very organized. But I have to admit, we've been terrible about we haven't gotten it organized since she's passed on.
And that's one advantage of giving material to an archive at a university. Professional archivists will organize and catalog what they're given, making it useful to others.
I think she can be an inspiration, not just to her own family, but to all women.
It would have been 1934, in the middle of the Depression, but we didn't know we were poor.
In addition to collecting papers, the archive will also be recording oral histories.
And then in the summertime, we went up the canyon.
Oh, and you wrote about that, didn't you?
Yeah. So this was my first novel, and it was really fun.
These prominent women, a public speaker, a legislator, an author, are important to the archive, but they are not the only ones the archive is seeking. The complete life of 20th century women involves the quiet women.
It's the women whose name has never been in the paper that I think we need to value that experience. There's just a dearth of documentation of that.
And what would that documentation be? Well, personal journals, recipes, notes from a PTA meeting. All that tells the story of women in the 20th century. Stories that need to be told and preserved.
But you see, the problem is that's all I've ever done is tell the stories. I haven't really written them.
That's right. We talked about that before.
Don't have them documented. I wonder if there's something I should be doing.